guys, good morning and welcome back to this week's episode of What the Heck Do You Do? A weekly podcast where we highlight unique business owners doing unusual things in the South Puget Sound area. This week's show is brought to you by Violet Services and Rich Rhodes with New York Life. If you guys are interested in becoming a sponsor or coming onto the show, you can email me at rich.rhodes@gmail.com and we'll get you all set up. What I'd like to do is introduce my guest this week, Jimmy Smith with Violet Services. How are you today, sir?
Very well.
Awesome. Good to see you. So Jimmy and I met at one of our networking groups, Ignite You. Him and I have had a variety of really fun conversations over a number of topics, and so I'm looking forward to doing that again here today for all of you guys. So Jimmy, of course, is with Violet Services, and we'll talk a little bit about that, and we'll also get into his journey, because I think he's got an interesting one. So let's go ahead and kick off and briefly talk about what the heck do you do?
Yeah, and I think that this is a great exercise, and I'm really glad to have the opportunity because our business is definitely one of those ones where it helps to kind of further explain. What we sell is essentially process consulting software solutions. We really focus on the process of a business, and we're really interested in trying to pair, solutions using software, to help improve a business's performance, productivity, and profit. We tend to find it ourselves working in simple things like websites, integrating from a website into their CRM service, but what we're really trying to do is offer something a little different to the market, and that we're wanting to be kind of this unbiased software kind of consultant that is familiar enough about business and existing software systems that businesses can really, benefit from knowing what to do, where to do it, and how. Because most of the time, every software that comes out, there is a consultant that will sell you that software, right? Or they'll sell you that website, or they'll sell you that marketing. And they always tell you that it makes all your dreams come true, and that's what you need, and if you had it yesterday, you'd be a success. It's not always the case. In their eyes, it is the best solution, as that's how they were trained. But what we want to do is come be a partner with you in bringing the experience and the knowledge that we have and assessing what does your business want to accomplish? What are your actual requirements? And then we'll kind of explain, okay, well, with these softwares, this is where it would impact your business. And it may include a website overhaul. It may include, moving forward with a marketing agency to further improve your pipeline. It may also include a better way to manage your resources. There's more than one way to improve profit in a business. And that's what we really want to focus on. So to give you an example, I'll have a client that comes in and says, hey, we need more leads. And I say, okay, well, if we increase your leads generation by 20%, what would you do with it? Are you looking to scale your business? Because if you're at full capacity now and you just want more leads, what are you going to do with all this business? Well, I haven't really thought that through yet. Okay, well, we would want to, plan on scaling your business. How are you going to manage these resources now? And do you even want to hire more people? And with this person in particular, they were like, yeah, we don't actually want to hire more people. I have a really tight crew. It's just the three of us, but we want to try to increase profitability, we want to increase revenue. I said, okay, so let's not bring you more leads. Let's focus on how do we build value in your business, right? But typical marketing agency may be able to accomplish the value structure, but that's where we really want to focus on, what is it that you really want to accomplish? What are you capable of? What can you afford? And what's within your skill set? Because there's all kinds of cool software out there, but you have to be somewhat savvy to know how to use these things. But that's where we are. That's what we want to offer, and kind of what we really believe in is, making. We want businesses to offer their best to our communities.
Okay.
Right, and that's, to me, the infinite reward is, is getting these businesses to be able to provide the quality service and products that they offer, and just finding a way to help them be able to accomplish that. And when they provide our communities better service, our communities are a better place. So it's kind of the ultimate motivation there.
Gotcha. Okay. So is it fair to say that you want them coming to you before making that major purchase
yeah.
of a off-the-shelf software?
Yeah, and so like where this comes into play for our much larger clients is when people are considering softwares like SAP.
Okay.
SAP is a pretty popular software. It's a process, oriented software. But the problem with these softwares is that they're thousands of dollars for a license, a single user.
Mm-hmm.
You have to buy the software to basically learn how to use the software, and you can't know if the software is any good for your business until you've learned the software. So how long does that take? Well, depending on the size of your business, we've seen businesses implement software like that for up to 2 to 3 years, and then they still are just now trickling into the making it something that benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what we've found in the past, of my previous experience of being a consultant doing implementations, is that through the implementation process, you start to discover that, this actually is not the best software solution for your business.
Mm-hmm.
But because we had already sold them the software, they've invested so much into it already, we had to commit to making it fit, right? And I give the glass slipper example. If the shoe doesn't fit, it's uncomfortable. It doesn't get used. It doesn't belong to you. But there are software solutions that do fit for your business, and we could have saved companies thousands of dollars, and more, even money aside, just the patience of the benefits of actually using the software. It's painful to watch these companies go through this grueling process of trying to implement software, and it's not going well because it's not a good fit,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so yeah, we really are trying to get ahead of this, and if we've got businesses that are considering, PLM, and are interested in softwares like SAP.
And what's PLM, just to make sure?
Product Lifecycle Management.
Okay.
So product lifecycle management is kind of an ideal, like a philosophy of the life cycle of a product, as it's created. Anyway, there's softwares around the management of this ideal, and everybody, when they reach this point of trying to manage specifications or product development process or supplier chain, they start looking towards software solutions, and SAP, and there's PLM for process. There's a couple other ones out there that specialize in the management of this, and people will just commit to buying the software. Well, come to find out, after doing all the implementations for 5 years, the process can be fine-tuned well before software, right? And so this is actually this philosophy we can offer to a lot of businesses. Focus on the process, and then focus on the requirements for your business, and then let's go shopping for software, right? So it's almost like you want to train we train them in a way that when we're done, they don't get told what they need. They're telling what they need, right? So they know what the requirements are. They know what the software needs to do in order for it to fit their business, because they're well trained into the process. Yeah, and because it's almost like you go to a car lot with a consultant, and instead of the guy telling you that red Camaro is best fit for you, the guy actually says, what do you plan to do with this car, right?
Right.
Well, I need to tow a trailer. Okay, cool. Well, this Camaro is probably not a good fit for you,
Right.
But maybe it's a minivan and it can do both or all the above, But you as long as you're told, shown essentially, what your business needs, what those requirements are, you'll have a better understanding of how to pick the right solutions for your business. You'll know what you're looking for and why, right? And that's essentially what we're trying to accomplish.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, I'm picturing the analogy of you decide you're going to work out, so you go out and buy like a Planet Fitness. So
Exactly.
So now you have every piece of equipment, but you have no clue what you're doing, and you just wasted a lot of money on it.
Yeah.
Or you can figure out a workout
Right.
routine that works for you, and then buy 3 pieces for your home gym and
Yeah.
have exactly what you need.
Yeah. It's so funny you use that example, because I was using this with my wife last night about this gym scenario, and so the way to picture it is like you can't get past the entryway. Like it's that there's equipment in there, and there's contracting happening, and the bathroom might not work, and all you can do is get in the entryway, right? And you've got this beautiful gym, but you can't use it, to its potential because
Right.
you weren't ready for it.
Gotcha.
So that's essentially what we're trying to do, and it's hard, right? I mean, there's process consulting is one of the more difficult things to try to measure, success, right? And having a method to kind of provide these evaluations of systems and processes and laying it all out for you, it's a planning process, and it's hard to. You got to have a pretty good track record to be able to show proof that, like, look, this is how it works. Like this,
Gotcha.
put you in contact with clients and have them tell you how it worked out, both good and bad.
Gotcha.
So.
Okay, so so how long is sort of the assuming they haven't bought the software, and they come to you first, how long is like a typical assessment where you guys are in there looking at their internal processes, trying to optimize
This is
them?
actually a really good question. I think that, it's about 30 days. I would say it's probably about a month for us to do a full assessment of,
Okay.
For a good-sized company. The smaller the company, the faster the assessment. But turnaround time is very powerful. Everything in the industry right now is quick. If you went to any corporate Fortune 500 company, everybody in there is rotating every year, right? They're going up, they're going down, they're going sideways. There's constant mobility happening in the industry today. And some of these implementation projects for some of these companies are up to 2 years.
Yeah.
So by the time you're finishing this project, half your team that you were training is gone. Right. So you've taught this person how to drive. They're knowledgeable about driving this car, and they've got all the tools necessary to do it. But because the project took so long, they moved. And if you don't have your full project team, there and implementing and in the implementation, your chance for success goes down pretty significant. And so what we've noticed is that you've got to get the implementation needs to be much faster. Like we're like 6 months max.
Right.
But the assessment part of it also needs to be quick, right? Because the business has recognized the need. They need to have this executed quickly. They need to assess budget, right away.
Right.
And then, they want to implement usually right away, because this is a need. This is a problem that they need to resolve. But yeah, so the assessment part, I'd say a max of about 30 days.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so prior to my current role, I was a process project manager for a big company, and yeah, that was and then an analyst before a manager, and yeah, some of those timelines would just keep getting pushed out and pushed out.
Yeah.
We're like in a 6-month engagement, and it's just like there has to be a better way. So I appreciate your need for speed to
Well,
get through
it's
that
true.
process.
I just, I've even before I got into software, we working as a production manager, like when you roll out enterprise software, like it's a lot of work, so it takes a lot of toll on turnover, our learning curve, and time to delivery can just destroy a project if it takes forever.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal.
Yeah, so you talk about product lifecycle management. So is your most desirable client like manufacturing type places where they're making things, or can you also help like service type industries as well?
Yeah, so with service industries, when it comes to process, we can help out a lot of small businesses with focusing and aligning their systems and really having a design of process. About 80% of every business, for the most part, does the same things, right? And has the same way of turning an item or converting a product, so that there's a lot of things that are available that are similar across the board. But specifically with PLM, there's a lot of people out there that are currently working with what's the discrete side, which is that manufacturing side. The consultants that we have are more versed in the kind of more food and beverage side of things. So making a sandwich, right, and it has layers of food specifications and sources of suppliers. That would be more of our ideal target audience.
Okay.
Versus going for Boeing, right? So Boeing and Kenworth, are more of that discrete. They still very much have, PLM in that industry. But yeah, I mean, could we provide solutions on how to do a lot of that stuff? Yes, but there's quite a bit more of a market, already supporting that. So really focusing on, with PLM in particular, it's more about the food and beverage industries.
Interesting. So tell us a little more about how you ended up at
Sure.
Violet Services. How long have you been there, first and foremost?
I've been with Violet Services since 2017.
Okay.
It's been kind of a long journey. I started out, I don't know, I was talking earlier about, wanting to, I'm born and raised in Alaska. I wanted to get out of Alaska, so I joined the Coast Guard so I didn't have to think about what I wanted to do. And I learned, it was one of the ones that would offer the most for me to learn. I was in the service for 6 years and then, got out. Well, actually, I should probably talk about what really motivated me. I was a boarding officer where we were doing all kinds of law enforcement and high-speed, low-drag stuff. And we were boarding these people's boats, these amazing, beautiful boats, like Paul Allen's boat. It's like, and I remember we would talk about like, oh, this is kind of a small one, this is not very big, and we'd ask him how much it costs, and he'd be like, oh, this is probably like a $10 million boat. And here I am saying it's small, right? But it kind of put things in perspective, and I started thinking like, well, am I ever going to be able to afford something like this being in the service, and back, when I was in the service, whoever worked hard got the work, right? Because nobody wanted to deal with it. So a lot of process and paperwork. So the more effort you'd applied, the more it came your way. And I was like, I bet we could start at Starbucks, or not Starbucks, but Microsoft, start out in the janitorial section and to have that true Cinderella story and work the way to the top. And so that's kind of what I decided I wanted to do. I decided that I wanted to go into the civilian sector and really try to apply myself and through hard work and really have it pan out. And I would say for the most part, it worked. I got into production manufacturing. I went through a couple different jobs, but production manufacturing is where I sat for almost 10 years. I did start out as a mechanic, entry-level job, and before I know it, I was promoted to a department, and then another department, and then another department, and then I had half the shop that I was responsible for. And
what were you manufacturing?
we actually ended up building Coast Guard boats. It was just coincidental. They recently, it was at Queechak Marine, and they had been awarded the RBM contract, which is those, they're the medium-sized fast boats, beautiful boats. But yeah, we were building those just constant, and I was there for about 7 years. And in the process of doing that, I had gotten to a middle management and really got exposed to kind of my first career frustrations. Where you have those scenarios where you're kind of damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, and your boss is like, you shouldn't, be doing this, but you need to get it done, or I don't know, you can't complain about it. There was a lot of situations where, problems would occur, and it was like, I can't get these other resources to work. They don't work for me. I don't know. It was miserable. So I decided to I need to get another job. I want to move on to something else. So I actually applied to Kenworth for a supervisor position, and they told me that if I had a degree, they would have hired me that day. And I was like, really? Just a degree? And when you're in middle management, it's tough to maintain a particular salary level, right? Because these positions are filled with people who are experts kind of in their field. So if you go somewhere else, you have to kind of start at the bottom and work your way back up again. Or you have to move up to the next level. So if I got capped out at a degree, I just like, well, I guess I got to go do that. So I decided that day, I enrolled into college and decided to get into software development.
Okay.
And a lot of people are like, wow, that was quite a transition, quite a change for you. And, with software, I've always been really fascinated. I've always been fascinated with how things work. Even as a kid, I tore things apart and wanted to see the inside. Couldn't always put it back together that well. But I got to learn what was on the inside. And to me, when I read a book on just what software was and really the basic mechanics, and when I realized that it was zeros and ones representing small electrical signals to mechanical parts, I was hooked.
Yeah.
I was like, this is so cool. Like, really? And from there, it just grows and grows and grows. And it's fascinating to me. So I chose the profession into, go into school, and I didn't know what it was going to be like. Didn't know if I'd have the brain capacity for it or the patience to stare at code all day. But I kept wanting more. I kept wanting to get more involved. So I did that. The previous boat place, it's interesting is that once I decided to, I was in a bad situation, but I recognized that I kind of had an out, right? I was like, I'm making plans for myself, going to school. And I decided to try to find a way to make it work at that particular job. I didn't want to necessarily quit, but they tell you there's two types of quit. There's quit walking out the door, and then there's quit, the person stays, and they just kind of go through the motions.
Sure.
Well, that's pretty much where I was. I was pretty much stuck. I was like, well, I can't leave this job. I got to make it work. Going to school, whatever. What it was so interesting is that once I let go, everything started to come together.
Interesting.
The resources that were causing me problems all got fired, and then they were like, we'd like to promote you to our Seattle branch. Just like, really? As soon as I had a plan, I'm like, I'm out. Everything started to kind of come together. But it was like, all right, well, I'll just take it. That's fine. So I did that, and then I ended up getting laid off from there. Well, I remember what year it was now, but about a couple of years later, they were holding up for another big government contract, didn't get it. And so a bunch of us got laid off. And I was like, really? I was so close to finishing my degree.
I was going to ask, were you done with school
I was
yet
like,
at that
I had
point?
like 7 to 8 months. I didn't have that much left to go. It was just under a year. And I was like, man, that's bad timing. And I was like, well, how long is unemployment going to last? It's like, so anyway, I had to get another job. And so I got a job as a production manager at Norgan GT. And that was a very stressful job. That was one of the more stressful jobs I've ever had. I literally had like hair falling out of my face. It was so stressful, but I loved the challenge. It was
come back nicely.
Oh yeah, thanks. I really enjoyed the challenge that we were trying to do something that nobody else had done before in terms of management and getting the production to where it wanted to go. But I learned a lot more about lean and more minute processes. And plus, the automotive industry has been around for a long time, and they've got it pretty well dialed in.
Yeah.
But yeah, so after that, I finished my degree, and I was working at this job, and towards the end, I realized that I really like what I'm doing. I really want to get into this industry. How am I going to do that? And I started looking at jobs, and I was like, wow, there's 18-year-old kids that can make video games for fun. I can't really compete with that. It's like I don't have time to hang out at mom's basement and get real good at coding. I had to go work, for a while. So I was thinking, how am I going to get in here? And so I was like, I think I'm going to perhaps do some type of an internship. So I really consolidated all of our stuff to have most minimal affordable stuff, right? I got rid of the nice car. I got a real crappy car. We moved into a place that we can really afford. I really was preparing myself to be able to take an internship, and make, I don't know, $15 an hour. And try to make that really work, because I really wanted to try it. So I started reaching out to some friends that were in software. I ran into a buddy of mine that I play hockey with, and he was like, yeah, I'll talk to my boss or whatever and see what he says. So I oh, cool, so he calls next time I see him. He's like, yeah, he says, I got you a meeting with them, next whatever. And I was like, all right, cool. So I go down there, and the first thing out of his mouth is, what do you want? And I was like, okay, all right. I probably should have been prepared for a pitch or something, but I just told him, that I really wanted to work and that I wanted to be in his office space and learn about what they do. And I told him that this particular job offer, I was working 410s, and I had Fridays available, and that I would love to be able to come in on Fridays and just see what you guys do. I don't know what it looks like to be in a software company from behind the scenes.
Okay.
And I said, I'll take out trash. I will, do whatever I can to make it worth your while. I said, I would even be willing to pay you, right, to allow me to be in the office, because I know that, this dead body or whatever is not helpful. So I wanted to try to, compensate here. And he was like, well, how about I just hire you? And I was like, well, that works too. So he offers me an internship, where I would come in on Fridays. And I did that for about 6 months, and then we finished the degree. And then I was enthralled. I just couldn't believe that we got paid to do what we're doing. I was like, this is so cool. So
So what were you doing? Were you actually taking out trash, or did you get a
No,
chance to, were you
he offered,
coding? Were you,
well, it was interesting. It's funny because these guys were so much better at code and so further along than where I was. They were working some pretty deep projects, but I, I would help with maybe the documentation of what was done,
okay.
right? So I could, I have some technical writing skills, so I would write down, what was accomplished, put it in like maybe, I don't know, just try to do the documentation portion of what work was done, and then sometimes it was maybe go and test it or implement it or
Okay.
go through the quality control stuff. And I really was trying to contribute. They actually had me do a lot more QC stuff, where I would go into the application and try to find errors, and do some sort of contributor type things. But most of it was just observation, learning how to use the software tools, use their internal software tools on how to manage these projects and stuff. So it was very informative for me. But I never had to take out the trash. I would have, but they never made me have to do that. But so I finished my degree, and I was like, I gotta get it. I really want to get into this. Like, I really would just love to just do this job. And so I approached them and I said, I am going to quit my current production job, and I am going to full-time try to find a job working in IT. And I told them, I was like, you guys are welcome to hire me. I would love to work here, but I can't keep doing the production stuff. Like, it's not, I'm not passionate about it. I really want to do this. And they were like, okay, we'll hire you, full-time. So they brought me on full-time, and I worked for them for about 5 years. And so I started out as doing like a help desk, taking in tickets, solving problems, the simple stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then they started to recognize, they're like, you're a pretty good talker, and I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, it's really rare to find somebody that understands software, but can also understand the business side and then be able to communicate it
Sure.
effectively.
Yeah.
So they pushed me into consulting, and I was like, really? I really like just working on the computers. I kind of want to get away from people management. I don't really want to, I'm sure I get that it would help people, but it's not really what I wanted to do. But that's what they wanted me to do. And I was like, well, I will do what you want me to do, because you kind of gave me the big break here. So whatever I can do to help you guys and help build a company. So I did it, and it was very helpful in a different way. And going through the consulting aspects, I really got the chance to see how rare it is and hard it is to find somebody that is a quality consultant that understands software.
Right.
There's a lot of times what you find is somebody who understands the fundamentals of software in the sense of what the right things are to say, but to have somebody say, well, we would like it to do X, and then to have a further understanding of knowing where it ends up in the database, how the actual software accomplishes this task, is huge.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so that's what I brought to the table. I was a very technical, solid consulting resource, so I was pretty valuable with the company, and everybody that I worked with really enjoyed working with. And then after I did that for another year, I got promoted again, and ended up having my own team of resources and manage the resources. So yeah, continual growth in this company, and continue to get more familiar about how to run teams and build, the team environment for accomplishing a lot of these software tasks. And as much as I love this company, I started to recognize that it was a very young company, and it had always been very frustrating for me. It's pretty typical. When you further up into management, you start to see more of the problems,
Mm-hmm.
right? You start to see more of the pain points. When I was just down there, help tickets, you couldn't ruin my world, man. I was so happy. Sure. But the further I got up, you get more responsibility and less authority, and they want more results. And I got really frustrated where we would talk about some of these solutions and problems, and we would never implement them. Mm-hmm. Right? They would just sit on them for years, literally years. I'm like, these are very simple things. I'm even offering to do all of this stuff for you. If you just need to give me the access to do it. Never happened. So that moment, I actually had, I almost created Violet Services as a bit of an outlet, right? To be able to just write policies and do the way, if I could it was almost like I could even take this company and present it to this company and say, look, this is how I think we should be doing things. This is what I've built,
Right.
And that kind of got more and more involved, and over time I had the website, I had all the contracts, I had all of our legality stuff put together, and I had essentially built this business, almost as an outlet, to be able to get all this stuff done. And then at the end of it, I was like, well, now what do we do? Or what do I do? I think that, I think we should try to implement something. But, and at that time, I tried to leverage what I knew and what I could bring to the table that was different. And focusing back then, it was more about, I had the idea of improving communications between contractors and customers, because that communication relationship's been pretty terrible. And so I was like, let's see if I can just offer, software and customer service skills to improve, our communication between these two. And then we ended up becoming a general contractor. It was a total disaster. I learned a lot, but I'm not a contractor, wasn't passionate about it, and I really had to kind of revamp it and focus. And so that's why we got into more of the, our big pivot was like, now let's just teach how to do these things. Let's educate on what softwares exist. If you want to accomplish the things that we've learned, let's just show you how to do that now. And that's essentially kind of how we got to where we are now. And it's been quite a journey working with small businesses. The construction industry was very interesting. Like, I didn't have to really work that hard to find work, especially here in Washington. There's just constantly people trying to build stuff right now. There's tons of opportunities. So looking for leads as a contractor really shouldn't be your biggest problem. It's resources.
Right.
I forgot what I was going to mention with that. But yeah, I mean, trying to focus on obtaining your resources as a contractor shouldn't necessarily be your biggest struggle. It's how to manage your resources and find resources and get the, using software tools that exist. But really trying to find opportunities to improve something and making things better and helping, businesses with what they have has kind of got us to where we are now.
I love it. And I think we have more in common than even I realized. So I was a computer science major, but not a very good programmer.
Yeah.
I've done that internship where I just filled in a bunch of holes from website to database administrator to marketing to coordinating implementations and all that type of stuff. So it sounds like there was kind of two big decisions in your career. The first one being that decision to strip down your lifestyle so you could afford to go back to school. And then that decision to ultimately branch out on your own and leave maybe the comforts of the steady corporate job with the paycheck and stuff like that. So maybe quickly highlight on just
and I think that
kind of state of mind there, or motivation for other people that are in similar positions that are thinking, I can't afford to do that, or that's too risky and I don't want to do it.
I think it's fair and important for me to explain a little bit more about the situation, because I think people see from the outside looking in, they're like, oh, he just started working and it's working, it's all, it's turned on. That's not the case. A lot of what allowed me to do that is I was a stay-at-home IT guy, right? So I had a lot more time on my hands to deal with, getting my kid to and from school. If I had to, if I needed to go to a business networking, I could schedule it, right? I had opportunities to do that. When working a traditional job, you have to make that huge leap, commitment. It's really hard to grow a business while having a full-time job, and you do have to reach that point where, you have to take that jump. And I don't want people to think that I totally did that, right? And for me, it was, I took advantage of an opportunity, where I could work from home, and with time I had saved in not having a commute, I applied to, starting a business. Not everybody has that option.
Sure.
And this isn't actually the first business I've tried to start. And I've reached other points with other businesses that were like, okay, I guess we have to quit our job. And at that time, I couldn't afford the risk. I felt that my kid was too young, and the family, I should say, was too young, and I didn't want to afford that risk. But, getting to a point where my kid is old enough that was more sustainable, I guess, and I didn't require as much time. It allowed us to reach a point where we were like, okay, well, could we make this affordable? And making these lifestyle decisions and planning for not necessarily a disaster, but not just assuming you're going to be successful out of the gate. You really don't know.
Sure.
So getting rid of all of those obligations and downsizing your house and making all that financial planning so you can do all this stuff. And it's not just money; it's also time.
Right.
You've got to come up with some ways. Make sure you have enough time to really apply. I've met a lot of businesses that have tried to do this balancing act, and it's tough. It's it's almost impossible.
Sure.
To try to do that. Yeah, and then it's not that it can't be done, but it's hard, I would say, without having many opportunities to do that. So what do you do? Probably squirreling away cash, so you can sit on it for 6 months and give it a valid go. We definitely had those moments for us where I had money set aside. We said that we were going to go for it because I did have to quit that previous job and go full time. But I still had, if we don't see this kind of return within this amount of time, we're done.
Okay.
We've got a do or die, sink or swim moment. And of course, when you get there, it's like, well, we're kind of swimming. Are we really dying? I don't really know. We're not totally drowning here. I feel like it's never that obvious. It's like opportunities. They're never that obvious.
Sure.
Right? It's they're uncomfortable. They're still questionable moments of decisions, and you have to still kind of use that gut instinct and assess risk.
Okay. So your advice would be sock away some savings for the jump.
Yes.
And have a bailout clause and a timeline where you say, okay, if we haven't turned a corner at this point, which is always adjustable, right? Because it's not like you literally sign a contract, but at least prepare to say, okay, this is the date where if we haven't turned a corner by this point, then we need to go back to or reevaluate.
Yeah, and I would say that on top of that, you got to have your family in order too.
Sure.
If you have one.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So for us,
it's a team game, right?
With my wife, she's been more than supportive in making this and helping me accomplish this. But see, told you. But where that actually looks like is us deciding to stick to like a structure, a schedule, quality time. How much time are we going to put out each week toward accomplishing this? Really having some time set aside to make sure you maintain relationships and you're successful in all areas of your life.
Gotcha.
It's not just about downsize money and then just go, right? Because if you don't have your support structure and if you don't have your life in order and you don't have you got to have it all planned out.
Sure.
And if your family's not on board, it's like a weight loss plan. It can really sabotage your success or your chance for success.
The other person's bringing home Taco Bell, McDonald's, when you're trying to go
I'm just not into
keto
the whole,
or vegan or
and it's very difficult to succeed in those environments. And as a person, you might have to ask yourself, what's more important?
Sure.
Do I want to? Do I really feel like that my sense of purpose is to create a business that provides a better tomorrow, or do I just want to make my wife happy? You got to make those decisions. Hopefully, it's both.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it's having a good team.
Awesome.
Definitely helps put that into effect.
I love it. Well, I could sit here and talk to you all day, but we're just about out of time. So, real quick, so if a small business is either considering a major software purchase, or they know that there's opportunity to clean up their internal processes to potentially, increase efficiency, lower overhead, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Well, I believe it should be scrolling on the bottom of this video. You can schedule time with one of our consultants at violetservices.com.
Perfect.
I'd love to, I don't know, I'd love to help you get your business, to where you want it to go.
Awesome. All right, Jimmy. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Appreciate you guys always for tuning in. Tune in next week. We're going to meet with James Beck, who's actually, ironically enough, a former New York Life agent who's going down a new path, and I'm super excited to learn more about that. So have a great day, guys, and keep chasing your dreams. Thanks.